So I actually have some stats that I read recently that I wanted to share. So 50% of 13-year-olds report being unhappy with their body. And this number goes up to 80% when they reach 17.
Oh,
And how old are you again?
I'm 24.
24. Yeah, I'm 25, but a shocking 93% of women between 25 and 34 experience body image dissatisfaction.
That is insane.
Isn't
I'm
that?
not surprised about it though, because of social media and like just the social aspect of looking a certain way. Like we grow up with being skinny, like telling us to go on diets all the time, like just all these things. Like it makes sense why we grow up, and it gets even worse as you grow up because obviously as a woman your body changes as you grow up. So it's not that social aspect anymore where you're 16, or 15. So it definitely is shocking.
Yeah, it's shocking, but again, I'm not surprised either. But it just shows as well that nobody is really immune to body image dissatisfaction, and to a lesser or greater degree, like we all experience it.
Yeah.
And what has been your relationship with your body in the past?
So what I would say is, like, for me, I would say my relationship with body has definitely gotten worse when I was a teenager and I was going through hormonal changes, because our bodies change and they're supposed to be changing when we're going through hormonal changes. And that's when I started to notice that, wait, like, I've gained weight, but my friend hasn't gained weight, but this is what society says you should look like. Like, why do I now have a pouch, and stuff like that. And I would say that was the turning point for me when I started looking at my body in a negative way. And it was also people telling me what I should look like people saying you need to lose weight, you need to cut calories, you need to start counting your calories, you need to look after your diet because no one's gonna like you if you don't look after your diet. And as a woman you shouldn't be eating this much or shouldn't be eating that. I'd say that's when I kind of started realizing that my body is just like a way to show, like a show off.
How
Yeah.
old were you?
I was like 14.
Oh, wow, that's pretty
Yeah.
early on.
That's when I first started my first diet.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so like what did that look like for you then?
So I started the Dukan diet. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
No, I actually haven't.
Oh, okay. So
And
that's
I've tried a lot of diets in the past, so like that's new to me.
Yeah, so that's one of the diets I tried. So it was mainly you had to eat certain foods on certain days. So one day you're only allowed protein, but that's it. So I remember those days just literally crying because I was like, all I was allowed was a chicken breast, or like, just like your meal was just protein and that was it. And I remember I was in school at the time and I was so embarrassed to show my friends my food, so I would literally hide in the toilets and like quickly eat a chicken breast and then go back and have my lunch break. My friends would be like, oh, I'm not hungry. So at 14 is when I first started my first diet, when I was struggling a lot with my body because a lot of people were saying that I don't look good, I've gained weight and I don't look like the 13-year-old child anymore. Like, it's been a big change in the year. But I also started my period and like they don't teach you these things at that time. And I think people mindlessly tell you stuff and they don't know how that's going to affect you, and it's like, oh, just go on this diet and you'll be fine,
Yeah.
And you start loving your body again once you go on this diet and once you lose the weight. But that didn't happen to me.
Did you start seeing changes though in your body when you went on that diet?
Yeah, I did. I lost like, I would say 5 to 6 kilos, and then I gained it back in like a month because it was not sustainable and I hated every single day of
Yeah.
it. I did notice, but then again, my confidence didn't change.
Yeah.
Like, I lost the weight, but my confidence was still bad. Like, I kept thinking, oh, like, if I lose more weight, I'll then be confident. Like, I kept putting my confidence on hold almost until I reached a certain body composition.
Waiting to allow yourself to enjoy certain situations and experiences, like until you were a certain weight or like a certain shape or size.
Yes.
And where did that then spiral into? So that was your first diet. You lost the weight. You still didn't feel confident. So then you obviously went on to do something else to try and like gain that confidence.
Yeah, so a year went by and then I gained the weight back and I was like quite upset with it. And then I remember turning 17, I was 17 at the time, started training, started learning about macros and everything. And I was like, okay, this is a bit better. But I didn't know what to do really. I was just going to the gym and I remember my stepdad put in Alan Froll. You know Alan Froll?
No.
It's a guy on that was like famous back in 2017. And he would put his video and tell me, just sit down, watch the deadlift video, and then we'll do the deadlift together. So I've learned how to train, but I would just literally go to the gym, sit down in the corner, watch the video my stepdad is telling me to watch, and then go and try and perform a deadlift. So really got into my training back then with him, and it was really good to see. He was encouraging me to eat. Like, he was just like, oh, we're gonna make the champions breakfast this morning, and it was like yogurt, nuts, seeds, like stuff like that. And then I thought, oh, okay, like, but I'm not losing weight. Like, I'm going to the gym and stuff, but I'm not losing weight. And I was like, I still have the same body image issues. Like, yeah, I feel like I'm going to the gym, but my body image issues are still like bad. So what can I do? Let me lose some weight. Let me go on a diet to start bodybuilding, because once I step on a stage and I earn a medal, maybe then I'll be body confident. So I then went into competing at the age of 17.
Wow, that's so early as
Yeah.
well. Like, you were so young.
Yeah. And that's when I started like being on a meal plan, going to the gym constantly. Like, I was doing like 6 days a week at the gym and then 6 days cardio. So I had 1 day off. And I thought, like, I remember telling everyone, like, yeah, I'm gonna do a bodybuilding competition, and I have to look like this. And I was showing them pictures, because bodybuilding was a big thing back then.
No.
And I was showing them pictures. I was like, oh, I'm gonna be this skinny, and then they were like, oh my god, Jess, but how are you gonna get there? You're lazy, you know. Like, people were telling me that, like, you can't look like that. And I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna prove you wrong, and you're gonna be jealous of me because I'm gonna get to that body weight. And again, got back to that body weight. Nothing changed in my confidence. It was actually even worse. I became that's when my hyper focus on my body became, because every morning for 6 months before my competition, I would weigh myself, take pictures, send them to my coach, and then he would tell me if I need to lose more weight, if I need to do this. Like, it was almost like if I didn't have a great week, he'd be like, Jess, you need to lose more, like, you're not doing well enough, okay, let me go lose weight again. Another week goes by, I lost a kilo, and then it's like, okay, well done, now we have to lose even more, now you have to lose even more, like, we still need, like, to drop weight. And it was that constant chase of, like, okay, what is the scale showing? Can I be happy, can I not be happy? If the scale has not changed and I've, like, not made it, I'm not allowed to be happy this week, for example. So that's when, like, my focus on my body became.
And why did you get into bodybuilding in the first place? Was it purely just like, oh, this is a good way of losing weight?
Yeah, so mainly I went into it with the idea of, like, oh, that's a great way to help me be skinny, because I have 12 weeks into my competition, so I need to be skinny to step on that stage. So that's gonna kick me in the butt and, like, get me going. It taught me a lot of discipline. Like, I have so much gratitude for competing, because it taught me a lot of discipline, and it brought me to where I am today. But it just started for all the wrong reasons. Like, it wasn't a health journey anymore. It was like, how can I beat my body up more? I know, like, I always saw fitness, like, before, I always saw fitness, health and fitness, and, like, nutrition should empower you, you know? Whereas bodybuilding made me feel like I wasn't enough, I wasn't eating enough, like, to sustain anything in my body. Like, I lost my period as well. And a fitness journey should always empower you, not take away from you, and not make you feel like you're not confident, that you're fearing food. And
Yeah, I know, it's just crazy how we go into try and improve our lifestyle or diet, exercise more, and how quickly that can turn like a negative spin on it, right? Like, where we just become hyper obsessed. Because my story is sort of similar to yours in terms of when I became like really conscious of how my body looked, and it started off at the age of 15. It was actually up to that point, I was always an active child. Like, I did sport, some form of sport, since I was 3. Like, since I could like walk properly and talk, like, I was doing something, and I loved it. Like, I loved being active. When I went to school, like, I signed up to like all the activities. But there was a time where my friend and I was like going to the cinema, and there was a group of guys like sitting outdoors that like we knew, because I went to an all-girls school, and then we had like an all-lad school across the road. So they would be sitting there, and as like we walked past, like somebody made a comment being like, oh, but like, you know, you look so much better if you lost weight. And you know, right now, like, I was 15, so this was 10 years ago, but this comment is still pretty stuck in my head, just because of how I started to view food and exercise from that point on. So up to that day, exercise was enjoyment for me. Like I loved moving my body. I loved how it made me feel and spending time with my friends and going to matches. And then suddenly I was like, oh, I can use exercise to actually burn calories. And probably I should, because if these people, which obviously like at that age, I really cared what other people like thought of me, especially guys. Like I wanted to get the attention of guys, you know? So it went, and then even with food, like I didn't really pay much attention to like what I was eating, because like I was moving so much, like I didn't think it was like affecting my body weight. But like I did, like I wasn't the skinniest, but I wasn't also overweight. But then suddenly I was like, I should eat less and less, and actually like paying attention to what I'm consuming on daily basis. I don't think it was as bad when I was still in like secondary school or high school, until I went to uni. So I went to uni at 17, and that's where I was like, okay, you're exposed to more people, you're having more interactions, like you're no longer like wearing a school uniform, which we had to wear, and you're obviously mixed now with the guys and the girls, and there's a lot of more like nights out where you're picking out like dresses to wear and becoming more conscious. So I definitely was like, okay, like it's time to start losing more weight. I was no longer part of any sports. And that's like where I got into the gym and like really just like, right, my focus is lose more weight, become skinny, because I associated that with being like accepted and getting the validation and attention, which I feel like moving to Ireland from Poland, I was kind of like, I always seeked to like fit in. And I thought maybe me changing my body is going to give me like that confidence and that like self-worth to be like part of like a gang and stuff. So yeah, it was pretty early on that it was like hyper focused on being as small as possible, like getting that validation.
Yeah, it's almost like you're a kid, right? And then you're not a kid anymore. And it's like everyone's like, oh, you need to start watching the way you eat because no one's going to want to marry you. Or like, it's like there's like a turning point where you go from, it's so weird. I wish I could pinpoint on a map where, when was the last time I didn't think about a calorie, you know? When you didn't know what calories existed, and then it's just a point where you're like, okay, no, like I know what calories are now. I know that carbs are bad for you. I know that fats are bad for you because that's what society tells us. And I don't know how it's still ingrained after all these years. Like you still have all these crazy diets. It's like, it's just crazy. But it's crazy how it starts at such a young age, and you go from like being a regular kid, enjoying sports, enjoying exercise, enjoying your life, to being like, okay, I do not like the way I look anymore. Like, like as a child, I never thought, like when I was like 10, 12, like I never thought about my body in any way. Like I was like body neutral. I was like, I didn't know what it meant to be skinny or like chubbier or whatever. Like that term didn't exist for me. And then it was just a point where I was like, okay, now people are commenting on it, and now I need to change it. And that was a turning point. And it feels like every woman has that turning point at a certain age, and it feels like everyone is going through like puberty time, in my opinion. I feel like I've noticed that a lot, like at like 14, 15, when everyone starts to like have that.
Yeah, I suppose like hormones are fluctuating then as well, which then has an impact on like how we feel about our body, but our body physically changing, like, you know, our breasts are growing, our hips are getting wider, like it's just part of that transition. And then like these kind of transitions happen on in life as we grow older as well. Then like we're going through like menopause, we potentially some women be going through like pregnancy, but there's also certain situations in life that unintentionally cause us to gain weight or lose weight, and it's something that we have to address to a point, because like our bodies is like our feelings are about our body are transient. But how, like, going back to where you started to be like really hyper focused on your body, like how did that look like for you?
It would look like genuinely checking my body every single morning. As soon as I woke up, like out of my pajamas, I'll just check the mirror, seeing how my abs look. Because back when I was competing, and I was really lean, I would have abs all day. Like it would be like going to bed, that bloating didn't exist. But in my opinion, I was bloated. I had body fat, and I was like checking to see every day if they're leaner, if they're leaner, if they're leaner. So every morning would be like checking my body. And just a lot of comparison. Like I remember going to the gym and just like literally at a point I was crying because I was like, I just saw another girl that looked that you just have, people have perceptions, and like the best thing to do is like just take yourself away from perceptions. But I saw this girl and she looked amazing, and I was like, oh my god, and I'm competing in 6 weeks and I do not look anything like that. I'm gonna do so rubbish on the stage. Like, I just remember going into change rooms and crying for like an hour because I was like,
sad.
this is like, I don't look good enough. I'm not good enough. A lot of negative words. Like, never I would wake up and be like, oh, you look great today, Jess. Like, no. Every day was like, okay, what can I improve? I'm not there yet. Like, a constant comparison, social media, like always comparing yourself, comparing myself to my friends, comparing myself to other competitors. Like, I remember checking before, like, who's going to compete on the same day, and I would go on their Instagram and like check every day what they're doing and how their body looks, and I'm like, oh damn, I'm not there yet. I need to eat less, I need to go and do more cardio. It's just a lot of negative mindset. Like, it's like every day you're just preoccupied by your body. Every meal you ate was like, okay, what's my weight now? Like, I would weigh myself like after every meal.
Do you think like when you finally stepped on stage, like you were happy with your body?
No.
No.
I just had to fake it.
Okay.
I was not happy. Like, I remember like just feeling so stressed the week before, and like the week before a competition, you actually are doing like a water load, and you're eating very low carbs, and then you put the carbs up, you literally feel like a zombie, and the pressure to go on stage is insane. And like you get in a room put with like 10 girls, and you're like, okay, this is who I'm competing against. Like, I'm going on stage, and then the thing is as well, like, it's now looking back at it, it's, for me, it's a bit messed up. Like, you go on stage, it's like 10 girls, and then everyone's like, okay, which one has a bigger bum, which one has a smaller waist, which one looks tighter, which one has bigger shoulder caps, you know? And like, you turn around, you get twirled around, and judges choose who's the winner, like the top 3 or top 5. And then if you're not made in the top 5, you don't think you're good enough. And even if you made the top 5, you're like, but I'm not the first one. Like, I'm not good enough. I'm still not good enough. Like, next competition, I must get the first, because then I'll be enough.
Yeah.
And then the next competition happens, and you get that first, let's say, and then you're like, okay, now I've got overalls, and if I don't get the first in the overalls, then I'm not enough. So it's like that constant chase of like not being enough.
There's always more that we want, right? Like, the goalpost always moves. It's like we tell ourselves, we make this arbitrary number in our head or size. It's like, if I get there, I'd be happy. But the reality is like, you get there and you want more, because there's always something that somebody else has that you perhaps like envy or are jealous of. It's like, or even internally you feel you can like bring more out of it. Like, I fell into that loop as well. Like, initially I was like, I just want to lose weight, and I was like, okay, I lost a little bit of weight. I'm like, oh, but now I want a thigh gap. Like, you know, when thigh gaps were like very popular and very in.
Well.
Yeah, it's like you want to see your collarbone.
My collarbones, and like taking pictures on Snapchat,
Like-
side like that.
Yeah, when it was like really popping, like you barely had any body fat, you're like, oh, now that looks great. I don't know, that's another trend, like bodies are just trends. But yeah, then it was that thigh gap. Then I was like, okay, you know, I will feel happy when I have a six pack, get a six pack. It's like, okay, what else can I do now? And I'm like, oh, now I want a bum. Like, now I want to grow a bum. So like, I need to like work for that. And there's always something, that goalpost always moves, and you're never happy. So waiting until like you are a certain size or image, like, is going to only lead to that dissatisfaction with your overall life.
Yeah, exactly. And I wish I knew that earlier, because it was just that constant, like for 5 years, I'll say I would constantly chase to be confident, and I would always be like, oh, well, I'm not confident now. When I get my bigger bum, or when I will be confident then, because I've ticked the abs, I've ticked this, but the abs never got enough. Like, I was 49 kilos and I was still like, I can lose more weight. Yeah. And it's like, thinking back now, I'm like, Jess, what was going in your head?
I know. But this is actually body dysmorphia. Like, I really resonate when you say like just checking whether you have abs with like when you walk past every mirror or every morning, because I was caught in that loop as well. Literally the minute I would wake up, lift my pajamas up, even if I walked past reflections, I'd be looking at like my it's like my arms looking off, like, is my stomach not bloated, do I not have that like belly pouch? And I would weigh myself every single day, and I actually got down to like 49 kg too, and I had this paranoia about going above 50, like that was just whatever it was, I don't know where that the 50 came from, but I was like, I cannot. And anytime like I would end up having like a cheat meal, because that's what I used to have, I would honestly just step on the scale, even if it went up by a couple of grams. I'd be like on that treadmill. I'm like, I need to just like burn it off. And
Yeah.
I just created this negative relationship with like both my body, but also food. Like, I recall like so many times where honestly, this is like pretty embarrassing to say now that I think about it, but this is how preoccupied with and obsessed I was with my body image that
Yeah.
it actually led to this. So basically, I used to study in America for like 6 months, and that was a time where I was like really zoned in on how I look.
Yeah.
And I didn't allow myself to buy any treats. Like I could not have them in the house because I was like, okay, this food is obviously bad, like any chocolate or
Yeah.
cakes and whatnot. And also, if I did end up buying it, I knew I had no control over it because I restricted it so much that I'm like, if I buy this, I'm gonna eat the whole thing and I'm gonna feel guilty. So I actually, like, those times I went to the supermarket and would like secretly eat in the supermarket and then hide the papers. But like, it sounds fucked,
Yeah.
right? Like when I'm looking back, I'm like, what were you doing?
Doesn't count.
Yeah, because it doesn't count. Yeah, it's like I didn't buy it, like it's not
Yeah.
there. And that obviously I was tracking like every gram. So I'm like, okay, it doesn't count. I didn't track it, like it didn't happen. And I'm just like reflecting back on this. It's just like how much your preoccupation with your body can actually like fuck your mindset up.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the things, I don't know if you had it as well, but like for me, I never thought I had like disordered eating. So like after competing, I had like, not even after competing, I'll say during competing all these years, I've had an eating disorder, but I was like, no, I don't. Like I'm just disciplined. That's all. But it's like you don't realize until you're out of it how disordered your habits were. Like you probably thought, oh, like I'm just doing this. Like it's not like a disordered habit, but it is.
Yeah, no, for sure. When I was in it, like, no, there's nothing wrong with me. And funny enough, my dad actually spotted like this behavior before I did. But again, I just thought I'm disciplined. So we were on a holiday, family holiday in Malta, right? And I used to, so everyone would go like down for breakfast. I used to skip it and go into the gym fasted and then go after and only have like a black Americano and watermelon. That was my breakfast.
Okay.
But there was a time where we had like a poolside bar. It was like an all-inclusive resort we were staying in. And dad was going down to get like a snack and he's like, do you want to come? I'm like, yeah, sure. And you know, like at a poolside bar, you have like fries and pizza and burgers and whatnot. And like, that's what everyone else was getting. I used to get the biggest bowl and fill it with salad and tomatoes and cucumber. And I'd sit there and eat that. And then he just like, I think he said it jokingly. He's like, oh, do you have like an eating disorder or something? Like not actually, obviously that's like a serious thing, but like he just said it like passing by. I'm like, no, like, you know, I'm just like keeping my figure, like, yeah, trying to stay in shape, obviously. But thinking back now, like, no, like that was totally disordered eating behavior.
I remember when I was competing, because I was absolutely starving, I remember going on a flight with my mum and I pulled out a cucumber. And my mum was like, what are you doing? I was like, I'm hungry and it's got 13 calories for the whole cucumber.
Yeah.
And I was just there, like, I had the salt. I had the salt with me to have it prepared. And I'll just dip my cucumber.
I'm laughing now, but at the time we were
And
just
even on the
purely
flight,
serious.
I was like, just dipping my cucumber and then just eating it. And everyone was just like looking around. I was like, just being disciplined.
Yeah.
That's all. Like, there's nothing wrong with this.
Yeah,
But like, it's actually messed up. Like, just thinking like, oh, I'm too scared to have pot noodles on the flight, or I don't know, to eat in like, you know, when you go to the airport. Like, I used to hate going to the airport. Like, I love going to the airport now because I'm like, oh, I wonder what food is going to be there.
Yeah.
Whereas before I used to be like, okay, what can I prep? Like, you know, I remember even being pulled at security and they're like, what is this? Because I had the cucumber in an aluminium foil because I cut it in half.
So you didn't even chop it into like small pieces when you're just sitting with it.
Like, chewing on it. I cut it in half and I was like, this will do.
Oh, yeah, no, it's crazy. And so what was the like turning point for you? Like at what point did you realize like, okay, the way I'm carrying on is not actually healthy. Like I'm not striving to be like my best confident self, but more so like actually the things that I'm doing are detrimental to my health.
So for me, I competed for 2 years and a half, and then I was about to compete the third time after COVID happened. And like for me, even when I was competing, I was on a diet, but even when I wasn't competing, I was on a diet. So like a lot of competitors, after they compete, they would gain a bit of weight so they can gain muscle. That was the whole thing. It's like, okay, I've lost the muscle on my diet. Now it's time to gain it. And you're again on a meal plan. You again like with some cardio, strict workout plan. Make sure you get stronger each week, because otherwise you're not gonna progress. And next year you're gonna look like crap on stage. So when it came to my third year of competing, I actually started a diet, and that was like, it was the first time I've been like not on a diet for a very long time, and I had to gain weight. So for me, it's like I had a reassurance all the time. It was like, okay, I'm gaining 5 kilos now after my competitions, but I'm gonna lose it in 6 months, you know, because I'm competing again next September. So I was like, okay, that's fine. Like I'm gonna be skinny again.
Sorry, so did you feel that you allowed yourself to almost like overeat and binge, knowing that like you're
was
gonna, or no, or were you
I
on
was still on
feel
a
like,
meal plan.
all right, okay,
I
so
was
you're like
still
very,
100%. I was like, okay, like I'm gaining weight because my calories have gone up,
Yeah.
and I'm gaining it to gain muscle. But then again, I always had like you said, that mindset of like when I was 49 kilos, I was like, well, I can't go over 55 because I knew I had to gain like around 5 kilos and then lose it again. So I was like, I can't get over 55. Like that's gonna be crazy if I do that. Like no way. And then in my third year of competing, I started my diet, was ready, I was so excited. I was like, yeah, time to be skinny again, time to lose the weight. And then as I started the diet, I was like, my body's not losing weight. Like my body did not want it. And I was like, what? So then my coach was like, okay, like it's a bit stubborn, it happens, let's increase cardio. So I went 12 weeks like from like let's say you're an online coach and you help women. The same thing is like just by adding cardio you should lose weight if your body is ready for it. Just by adding cardio to your daily life, you know, that little bit you should lose at least 0.2 or something, you know. My body was like no, nothing. So after 12 weeks of dieting consistently, eating less and less and less, and like I was nearly like eating 1,200 calories, I went from like 2,500. My body was like no. And I also lost my period. And then I did a blood test to check my hormones, because my coach was like, okay, let's check the hormones and see what's going on there. I was like, okay. Did the blood test, and I had like a finger prick come at home, and you had to like finger prick yourself and you send it back. And I was with my mum and I passed out. And my mum was like, what? Like, it's just a finger prick. Yeah. It's like, you've got so many tattoos. And I was like, I don't know what's happening. And then I passed out, and my mum came to give me a Square bar, which is like a cereal bar in the UK. And I was like, Mum, are you crazy? I can't eat that. And I literally like, I threw it out of my mum's hand. I was like, you cannot give me that. I'm on my diet. It's not part of my meal plan. And my mum was like, Jess, you need sugar. And I was like, no, I need to go do my fasted cardio. Let's try and do the finger prick test again. And my mum looked at me a bit like, what? Like, you're going to go do your fasted cardio? I was like, yeah, I've got a show in like 12 weeks. Like, I'd have no time to waste. And, you know, I've not been losing weight and da. And then I went, I did the finger prick test again, passed out again. And then I went to do my cardio, and as I was doing my cardio, I was just like reflecting on everything, and I was like, I've lost my period again. Like I've not had a consistent period for 4 years, and I kept thinking, oh, I don't have a period. That's great. That's amazing. And I started to look more at like, I don't know if you ever heard of Stephanie Buttermore, but I loved her, and she was going in her all in back then, and I was like watching her videos, and I was like, okay, that sounds a bit like me. And back then, I think social media wasn't as social media was very consumed by being skinny, being disciplined, being like eating as little as you can. You didn't have that many role models that were promoting body positivity and like promoting a healthy body rather than something that looks healthy but it's not. And I was like, when I was doing my cardio, I was like, I don't think I can compete. My body is saying no. What, like, why am I forcing it? And that was the turning point for me when I was like, okay, like I need to actually heal my body and like just try and like be back to like a healthy body and like heal my mindset. And I was just looking back on all the habits I was doing around the food, then like I was like, this is not healthy. Like my body, like I always thought to myself, like a body that feels like nightmare to maintain, it's not your body. Like your body shouldn't feel like a nightmare to maintain, and that's not the body where you should be in if it's a nightmare, you know?
Yeah, and if you were saying that you were doing this over and over again but not feeling any more confident or worthy, it's kind of like, what am I putting myself through? For what? I'm not feeling any better, and kind of that was always the initial goal, to feel good in your body, right?
So what went from a goal of like feeling good and feeling healthy became something that was unrealistic, and it was just like a constant pursuit of being skinnier, a constant pursuit of eating less, and it's like your body does so much more for you than that.
Yeah. I used to believe that big time, that in order to feel confident and self-worthy and have high self-esteem, I needed to change my physical appearance. I thought that's it all came down to, like, if I think that I look a certain way,
Yeah.
or just like, comparison, like you mentioned, is such a big one. If I look like that person, like, I'm finally gonna have that confidence and I'm gonna be like accepted and get the like validation. And in terms of validation, I did get validation, which only, I don't know about you, but it only fed me into continuing this for longer and longer, because you're getting so much praise and you're getting so much comments, and this just shows how fucked society is in terms of like creating this idealistic beauty standards, that suddenly you're skinnier, so you are viewed as better, which is like, it's hard, it's hard, because we are a society that is obsessed with external appearance. But like, even if we look back on like the decades of how body types changed and trends, like they were forever changing. Like, we cannot live up to the expectations.
Yeah, and I would always say, like, you never get what's the word, like, you never get rewarded, you never get complimented if you gain weight. It's always when you've lost it, like, oh, you've lost a couple pounds, you look so good. But like, when you've gained it, it's like, oh, you've gained weight.
Yeah.
But it's like, actually gaining weight and like finding yourself to be a healthier person, it's healthy and you should be rewarded more. Because as well, sometimes you don't know why people gain weight. They could be going through something, like, seasons change and your bodies change. I always say that, like, you could go through some traumatic experiences, you could go through a very stressful time, you could actually just be gaining weight because you're not healthy, but it shouldn't be viewed as something negative.
No, for sure.
It's been viewed as something negative for a very long time.
Yeah. And so you decided, like, you obviously had this turning point where you're like, what I'm doing is definitely not healthy. Like, I'm not confident. I'm not feeling any more happier. You found some inspiration online, which is great, like you're saying, because back then it was all about like being as shredded, like as skinny toned, but like there was somebody, like a role model that you had. So then what steps did you take to heal the relationship with your body?
So to heal my relationship with my body, I had to heal my relationship with food as well. Like, I felt like both of them came hand in hand. At first, I just let go of all the rules. It's been like a journey, because it's been up and down. Like, 1 week I'll be like, yeah, body positivity, I'm just not gonna care about my body. Next week I'll be like, okay, back on a diet now. So it's very up and down. I wouldn't say it was a linear process where I was doing the same thing every day. But I started surrounding myself with people that, like, on social media as well, like people that talked about like being in a healthy body, and like following accounts that didn't make me feel bad about skipping the gym, or didn't make me feel bad about not choosing to bodybuild. So I unfollowed everyone from the bodybuilding community, because I was like, this is not helping me. And then with my body, it's like, this is one of the hardest exercise, I would say, if you come from someone that doesn't feel like you have enough self-worth. But it's genuinely looking at yourself in the mirror. Like, so many times I looked at myself in the mirror, but you don't even look at yourself in the eyes. Like, it's almost like you feel like you can't look at your face, like you look through you. But like, I was literally like, it felt so uncomfortable at first, but I would look at myself in the mirror, look myself in the eyes, and be like, saying things that I appreciate about my body. And sometimes I'll literally look in the mirror and cry and be like, I feel like what I'm saying is a fraud. Like, I don't feel like I look like, I don't feel good enough to be saying these things about my body. But it's like, I had an alarm on my phone every single day, and I would wake up, and like every time, like after 10 minutes after I wake up, I'll get this reminder of like, go do your mirror affirmations. And I'll go and sit there in the mirror and just do my mirror affirmations and just be like, yeah, I love my body, I love this, I love that. And then I'll just say affirmations about my body. And it felt so uncomfortable for like, I would even say the first 3-4 months. Like, I would look at my body and I would sometimes even start crying in the morning, because I was like, I don't feel like what I'm saying is true. But it's just that one thing where you just have to keep pushing through it and like take yourself away from all those, like, I stopped weighing myself, I stopped dieting, like any sorts of diets I stopped. Like, as well, like, I had the jar. So I had a jar with like foods that I was fearing and habits I was doing. So I was always fasting. I think I fasted for like 5 years of my life. Fasting was my way of like skipping breakfast, and I was terrified of having breakfast. Terrified. And that was one of the things I had in my jar, like with like little notes of like, what can I do today? So every morning I'll pick up a note and be like, okay, today we're having breakfast. And I'll hype myself up and be like, why is it good to eat breakfast, you know? And like I would Google things like, oh, the benefits of eating chocolate, you know, and like start like reading benefits and stuff rather than, because if you type in like, I don't know, the negative sides of eating this or like that,
Yeah, is
you see
chocolate
so
bad
many.
for you? Like you're
Yeah,
gonna get
you're
proof
gonna
that
get
it's
that,
it
right?
is.
So I'll just be like, what are the benefits of eating chocolate, you know, or what are the benefits of enjoying a meal out with your friends, or what are the benefits of saying body affirmations? And I just started looking at people and like listening to my body as well. And like I was like looking at it and I was like, okay, Jess, you're not healthy being that lean. So why are you forcing yourself to be lean if your body is literally screaming at you that it doesn't want that? Like my period missing was like the biggest thing I would say that made me think, wait, like I'm actually not healthy. And I was reading a book, No Period Now What?
Really
By
good.
Nicola, yeah. And I found that that helped me a lot as well. Like just reading that and like constantly hearing why I was not healthy in the body I was made me realize that wait, like something needs to be changed.
Yeah, so you're saying support network is important in terms of like either actually in your close proximity, but also social media, like because I think we don't realize that, but the content that we consume has such a huge impact on us. And sometimes we can tell ourselves like, no, we're pretty immune to it, we don't get influenced, but like we do. Like how many hours a day do we spend actually on our phones? And it really is subconscious, like what we see. And if that's if somebody on social media portrays a message of like constantly altering your body, like it's going to affect you in a certain way, and it's going to start, you're going to start questioning yourself like, oh, maybe I should be like working out every day as well, or like I should be cutting out those calories too. So it's so important to like actually filter out the accounts that you follow and like just go through your followers. Like this is what I say to like, which I had to do, but like also I say to my clients as well. It's like just go on your social media accounts, whether that's like TikTok and Instagram, and like have a look who you're following. It's like, does this account make you feel better about yourself, or does it actually send you into like a spiral of like feeling bad about your body?
Yeah, because if you're only following like size 6 models, and like some women are very healthy in that body, some aren't. I think the most important thing is like when you try to heal your relationship with your body and your body image, is like looking at your body as more than just a number and looking at your body as more than just a size, because everyone's going to be different and we're not all the same. We don't all have the same genetics, you know. Again, social media, you always see the highlights of people. So if you're always comparing yourself to a size 6 model that you follow because you think she's beautiful, what don't you have? Why are you not beautiful, you know? So it's just like taking yourself away and being like, okay, this person makes me feel bad about my body, so I'm just going to unfollow them. Like, I always find myself comparing to them, so I'm just going to unfollow them.
Yeah, and honestly, sometimes it might be your friends. So like, you just
Yeah.
mute them or like have that conversation with them. Be like, look, I'm at the moment on this journey of healing my relationship with my body, and I just need to put myself first. I just need to block this account, unfollow this account. It's not, and it's nothing personal. It actually has nothing to do with that particular person. It's not what they're putting out on social media is necessarily bad, but it's all like how it triggers you. Like it's all comes down to you.
Yeah, exactly. And you take everything differently than someone else. And it's like, even with your friends, like I'll say, like having a supportive network. Like if you are always hanging out with friends that are restricting themselves, that are talking about their bodies and how they're not enough and how are you ever going to heal your relationship with your body if you're in that environment and like all your friends are talking about is like how they're upset that this size doesn't fit them or that they don't look good enough or like look at my stomach and stuff like that. It's like surrounding yourself with people that are like more body positive, and like even if it's your friends and that they probably are not in the same journey as you, it's like telling them that, right, can we just not have conversations about bodies and stuff like that in front of me? Like it's triggering me and it's not helping me move forward.
Yeah, that's very important because, yeah, like I was saying, everyone's on their own journey with their body image. So, yeah, going out for dinner and people are like, I'm only going to have a salad, I cannot have ordered that burger. Like, it's going to affect you because then you're starting to think, even though you might be already in that mindset, there's no good or bad food. Like, if everyone else at the dinner table is like demonizing certain foods, like, you're going to be like, almost afraid to order what you really want. So it's either, again, they're not bad people. They have, everyone is at a different mindset level, but like you either, if you care about having these people in your life and seeing them on regular basis, you need to have that conversation with them, or else you're pulling yourself out of it, because otherwise like you're never going to be able to like heal.
Yeah.
And what challenges have you faced then in terms of like getting yourself out of a smaller body and then working on your health?
I would say most of the challenges were literally just coming back to what I believed was what it was I was supposed to be. Like I always believed that I'm supposed to be skinny, and that kept coming through. Like every time I gained weight, that same thing you were saying earlier on. Like right, okay, I'm not 50 kilos anymore now, but I would always set a limit. Because I need to gain weight to get my period back because I didn't have a period. So I was like, okay, like I know now that I need to gain weight. I'm not eating over 2,500 calories. Like I'm still calorie tracking because out of fear I wasn't eating enough calories, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna calorie track because I need to eat more, and this is the only way I can actually eat. And then one thing is like I've always had like a number, like I can't go over 2,500 calories, or I can't go over 2,000 calories, or I can't go over this X amount of weight. So it's like almost setting myself a limit, and I'll get to let's say 60 kilos, and I'm like, I still don't have a period, but this is my weight limit. That's it. And it's like letting go of all that expectations was really hard. And another challenge I'll say I'd face is like the way I saw myself. I just kept thinking that everyone is noticing what I'm doing. Like I just felt like, you know, when you go and sit in a room, you feel like everyone's judging you because they're like, oh, like last week you probably were skinnier or whatever. But like people actually don't analyze you the way you analyze yourself. And then like the weight, seeing the weight go up was a massive change for me, and like detaching myself from the scales was really hard, but it was just something I needed to work through. And like now I would say that I look at the scales and I'm like, that's just a number. Because like I look at my body as well, and it's like your body will look completely different in different weights, and I could be 60 kilos and I will look completely different than 60 kilos 2 years ago. And it's like you cannot, like, especially as women, our bodies change so much throughout the month. Like one day you hold on to more water, another day you hold on to less, and then you just need to kind of let go of that scales because the scales are not everything.
No, we place so much value on it, but like we also forget it's not only body fat that the scales measure, like our organs or water weight or muscles, like, and as we're like weight training as well, like we're gonna gain muscle, we're gonna gain numbers on the scale as a result as well. But it is challenging. For me, it was more so like letting go of the need of like validation, external validation, because like as I gained weight, I stopped getting those comments and the praise. And again, it was just like I stopped getting the reinforcement of like, oh, you look better when you're smaller. And it's like redefining what actually like beauty means to me. And is it actually looking a certain size, or is it a person that I am? It's like, why do people value me? Like, why do I have like friends, and you know, what do my family members see me as? Like, and you know, and when I think sometimes it's really hard to love ourselves. Even like doing the exercise where you said like the affirmations in the mirror and picking parts that we love about ourselves can be really hard, because like I don't know, like I'm thinking UK and Ireland are pretty similar. It's like we never really accept comments. It's always like somebody compliments something else us and we like backfire that. It's almost like, no, stop. Like we find it so hard to to say thank you, or actually just like be proud of our achievements. I think that's when you are, people almost view it as like, oh, you're just like stuck up your own hole, like, you know, you think you're great and whatnot, and like that's so detrimental then when it comes to our body image. So like redefining what beauty means to you, and then if you find it hard to sit down and even like write down what you admire about yourself, then going to people that are in your life that you admire and be like, why are you grateful for me? Like, why do you have me in my life? And she will notice. Nobody is going to turn around and be like, oh, because you wear this size of dress, or like you weigh this amount of kg on the scale. Like that does not happen. So.
Yeah, definitely. I do find that it was very hard to let go of those like like people commenting on your body, because you're so used to always like, okay, I need that validation, I need that, you know, and they feed into you and your confidence. It almost feels like sometimes you're not allowed to be confident. Like it feels like confidence is like demonized, like, oh, you can't be confident because confidence means that you're stuck up your ass. But it doesn't mean that. Confidence means literally like just knowing your self-worth, knowing that you are enough. That's just confidence. It doesn't mean that, oh, I'm so beautiful, I'm so above everyone else. Like that's not confidence. But everyone like kind of feels like that's what confidence should be, but it's not.
No.
Like, confidence is just knowing, like, treating your body well, and like knowing that, right, I can do this, I can do that, I'm worthy enough, you know, like I don't need someone to tell me if I'm allowed to feel confident or not. And I think that's a very hard thing to kind of get over, because we're always told, like, if we're allowed to feel confident or not by society, like, oh, have you gained weight? Okay, well, I'm not allowed to be confident now, I need to lose it first, you know?
Were you already like on social media while you were going through that transition of like from bodybuilding to gaining weight? How did you find then showing up on social media? Because I'm not sure about you, but I attached a certain identity of me being like no days off, like dieting, you know, and this is kind of the picture I was portraying on social media. And then obviously like you're coming out of it, your body is changing, and it's not only you that's in it, you're still showing up on social media, recording workouts, putting out content, and now you're in a different body. Like, how did you navigate that?
Yeah, so I'll definitely say I was in the, like, identity, like, bodybuilding was all I was. And it was just really hard to say that I'm not going to compete, because I felt like that's why I had those followers. And it felt like I had that mentality of, like Jess is the disciplined one, you know. Jess is always going to be the one that's disciplined. There's no one going to be the one that is like that. So I'll definitely say it was really, really hard. I would actually say, like, I was guilty of it. Like, I was not showing people what I was going through. I was like still doing my workouts, still doing this, still doing that, and I would post old videos of me competing. Like, it wasn't like I was too scared to show what was actually going in. And then at some point I kept watching Stephanie Baltimore. She was like a big inspiration for me back then. She still is. But I was like, you know what, like, it's actually so many women follow me and they look at me and they say, oh, she's got the dream body, she's got the dream life, you know. I wish I looked like her. But it was like, me, I had no period. I was scared of food. I would not eat all day. I was absolutely terrified of skipping a workout. So that wasn't a dream body, you know. That wasn't something that people should have aspired to, because if you ask, like, it looked great on Instagram, let's say, like, I looked happy, but I wasn't. I was going through so much every day in terms of, like, how I was, like seeing food, how I was seeing my body, like the mental battles between those two. And then I've always been a very open person. Like, my mom's always taught me to be open, to always say what's on my mind, to always, like, just portray what is real. And I remember that there's a big gap of, like, people actually saying, like, right, like, women are not all meant to be skinny, and like they won't be healthy if they are like that. And I remember making a post about losing my period and, like, how, like, I need to gain weight and stuff like that. And I started getting a couple comments, like, really, really nice comments. Obviously you get really bad comments on Instagram as well, but I've learned to, like, not put these into my mind. Like, you always get men commenting like, oh, I wish I like body one first, and it's like, I'm literally making a body positivity post. Like, it's not about you comparing my body, it's just about me showing women that you can be healthier, and you will be healthier if you gain more weight if you're in an unhealthy stage in your life. But men just feel like, oh no, like, I prefer picture one, I prefer that left photo, like, when you were skinny you looked better.
Yeah.
But it's like, I just like stopped thinking about those, because, like, no one knew what was going on inside my body. So I started posting more about that, and as I saw people actually being like, oh my god, like, wow, like, this is so inspiring that you're doing that, I let those positive comments get to me rather than the negative ones. There was a load of negative, but I just deleted them, and I just wasn't looking at them. I was like, I don't want to see them. It was definitely hard to change your personality on social media, but as I changed it is when I saw my following grow as well, and also I saw that I'm actually helping, like, I'm not alone, because you feel alone in those situations when you're gaining weight, when you're in those, like, eating disorder mindset, and, like, you feel so alone, but you're not. And, like, when I started putting content out about what eating disorder habits I have, like, people will be like, oh my god, I'm the same, like, I thought I was the only one. And I was like, oh, so there's other people that are going through the same thing as I am. So that's when I was like, okay, I need to post more of this content, because I want women that felt like they're not enough to feel enough. And that's how it kind of started, and it actually empowered me more to push through this body confidence journey, because I had, like, a good support system through Instagram, because I don't think a lot of people were doing it back then.
Yeah, no, that's amazing that you did. Like, you actually just channeled into like what is really going on and like being authentic about it and noticing it, because that's the thing, like, you know how you and I, when we were both in the midst of it, like we didn't actually know how disordered it was, and there might be a lot of people thinking what they're doing is actually, there's nothing wrong with that, and maybe they should be doing that, because some accounts actually promote this disordered way of living, and just bringing awareness to what people are like, okay, I'm not the only person that's feeling guilty around eating certain foods, you know? And it's like, yeah, I've been through that as well. So that's good that it actually, you were able to bring something positive out of it and like give back like to others through your own journey. So well done to you for like, you
How
know,
did you find it?
I found it challenging to like show up a certain way on social media, especially like in terms of how I just hated how my body looked. It's like when I transitioned out of the mindset of like being the smallest, and then I started working on like gaining muscle and strength, and I was like, I felt that I was still like quite lean, but I had no period, right? So although I shifted away from like just being super restrictive and dieting all the time and using exercise to like alter my body, and I moved more into like, okay, now I want to get stronger, I want to focus on performance, I was still like counting calories. Like I was still going through these like dieting periods, you know, on and off. So like although my relationship with my body kind of improved, like I wasn't just like shrinking myself, I still wasn't fully like body neutral. Like the way my body looked still impacted the way I lived my life, you know? And it wasn't until the point where like I had no period, and then it was going on and off for like already like 4 years. And I was like, okay, I need to do something proper about it. Like I need to go into full recovery. So I had hypothalamic amenorrhea, and I was like, I need to go into full recovery. And that was the start of last year, so the start of 2023, where I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do whatever it takes to regain my period, because like that's important to me. Like for me, I always knew I wanted to be a mother, like since I was like 10, and like the idea of like me not having my period and potentially that leading to infertility was like a big thing. And also just learning more about it, like when you don't have your period, it affects like your bone mass as you age, like the percentage of like mortality, but even like bone fractures and whatnot, like increases massively if we don't have like enough of estrogen. So I was like, it was really freaking me out when I learned that how important having a regular menstrual cycle was. So I went all in and I started working with like a health coach, just like specializing in hypothalamic amenorrhea. And that was the time where I needed to reduce exercise, and it brought awareness to me how much of like a negative relationship I had with exercise, in terms of like not using it as punishment, but not allowing myself to take time away from it, like that something is bad gonna happen. And it wasn't until my coach was like, well, we need to reduce your exercise because like the intensity at which you're training is not good for your nervous system. And I was like, oh my God, like the fear of like not working out that much, especially I'm somebody that I love pushing myself and training. Like I joined CrossFit for a year. I was going to like go into like powerlifting prep. And then I'm like, Martina, what are you doing? And it wasn't until I had to step back. I was like, oh my God, training less. Like she was like, maybe we'll just train 3 times a week and we're gonna periodize your training. I'm like, 3 times? Like, I'm like, the least I trained was like 5 days, okay? Because before I was like 7, was training like every day. And then it was like, okay, we need to bump up calories because your body needs to feel safe. So I was still tracking and I was still taking like progress photos and my weight, but more so that I knew that I was gaining weight, you know, and that I was actually eating enough and fueling the training that I was doing, the training that I was doing in general. And yeah, I was just like, see, like my clothes, all my clothes that I had, is just like none were fitting me. When it came to like going out with my friends, I was like, from going, somebody that enjoyed going out and like felt like, oh yeah, I feel good in these clothes, and usually I'd be like size whatever, like this one size, and then being like having to buy clothes that are bigger or going then shopping. It wasn't something I ever faced to that point, because even though I was tiny and was shrinking myself, like I said, I was still in like a relatively, in the size that I wanted. And I was like, it was so hard like even showing on social media, like I used to like cry myself to sleep during that period too, because I still had no period, because it's such a frustrating journey. It's not like fat loss or gaining muscle. You have physical markers that things are improving. Like you just don't know. Like you just have to trust that the process is actually going to work out. And recording, I don't do as much like posting my workout videos and stuff. Like that's not kind of the content I do anymore, but it used to be. And I used to be like going into the gym, recording workouts to post online to help people like get into the gym better. And I was like, I do not want to record anything. And then I opened up about it on social media, and again I got like such a positive reaction to it, because I was trying to show up as this different person, whereas I was really freaking struggling with my body image. And opening up about it and being like, like I was like, I'm not somebody to cry on social media, but I was literally, I came up and I had tears in my eyes. I'm like, damn, this is affecting me so much. And then also what brought it up, that I thought I fully healed my relationship with food up to that point, until again somebody just identified some, like it takes somebody to almost like identify some patterns that you still have. And it just shows that like years of dieting, you don't just like snap out of them like this. They're still like ingrained in you. And one of them was being that I still used food as almost like to deal with my emotions. So like I used to emotionally eat since I was like 12. Again, I didn't think that was like an issue back then. But then, although I felt like I'm eating healthy, like I don't really feel guilty for going for dinners or ordering pizza, what I found myself doing is like it came to the weekend where I just allowed myself to relax a little bit more. And then I was like, oh, I have some free time. And I would just like buy a shitload of snacks to watch Netflix. And anytime I just allow myself to relax, it was when I felt like I needed a lot of food. And I was like, okay, what's the issue here? Like we're still having some problems. Like I'm still obviously not allowing myself to fully trust myself that I can include all of these foods whenever I want. I feel like I just need to eat them like excessively, and something to do with my emotions. Also, it brought up that I'm obviously not allowing myself to relax at any point, because if I'm only having like 2 hours in a week to, so it was challenging. But in hindsight, I think I'm glad I went through this, because it has taught me so much about my body, about what's more important, about actually fully healing my relationship with my body and my food. If I didn't, I also wouldn't be able to resonate with the clients I work with now on the level that I do. Like if I never had those struggles and challenges.
Yeah, I definitely think that, because you can resonate and you know where they've been, and you know you've been there, and you know you've made it through. Like so many times when I was trying to heal my relationship with my body, I genuinely never thought I'd ever be happy. I was like, will I actually get to a point where I'll be happy with my body?
Yeah.
It's like I can now say, like, hand on the heart, like I do not look at my body and I'm like, oh my god, Jess, you look gross. Like that used to be a daily thing for me, you know? It used to be a daily negative affirmation. I don't, like, I look in my mirror and I'm like, okay, I'm bloated today. I'm probably getting my period. I'm probably a bit stressed. Like, it's fine. That's all. Like, and then I just walk away from the mirror, and that's it. Like, I don't look at the mirror and I'm like, oh my god, why am I bloated? What's my weight? And if the weight is too high, then that means like my day's ruined, you know. So I think it's a very hard place to get yourself out of. But yeah, it's amazing once you get yourself out on the other side and you're like, wait, like I can actually heal my relationship with my body. Like I can be body confident. It's just takes some time, and you just have to keep going through. And it's one of those things, like you were saying, it's not like you can't measure the progress of the body confidence journey. It's like when you try to be body confident, it's like you don't lose weight or gain weight. Whereas like, you know, if you're having a fat loss phase, you are gaining weight or losing weight, like whatever. So you have a way to measure progress. But with body positivity, it's all in your head, and it's a very mentally tough thing. And then I feel like it's years of work. Like for me, it was years of work, because I was doing it myself as well. And I had no one cheering me on, basically. I was my own cheerleader. But one day you wake up and you're like, okay, today is actually, I don't look at my body. And then it just keeps happening. You're like, oh, like you've just somehow snapped out of it. And it's just like those years of work and like the mental work you have to put in to get those results. It's not like going to the gym, you know, to get those results. It's like you have to actually take time, sit down and journal about it. Or just take time, look in the mirror and like just take yourself away from like what you used to think that you should look like, and then kind of like have no expectation of what she look like and chase like happiness, chase to have a meal with your friends and not worry about the calories, chase to go to the beach without worrying about your body and just being able to play water sports or like go surfing or whatever you want to do without thinking, oh, how's my body looking? Because when you're at the beach, no one's actually looking at your body and it's like, oh, what does she look like?
No.
Like, you know, like everyone's in their own lane. I think everyone is also thinking of their own body as well, but you think everyone is looking at you.
Yeah, because if like bring yourself back to like what are you thinking when you go to the beach? Like, do you just sit there and judge everyone else's body? Like, no, like you don't do that. So like, what makes you think everyone else is doing the same? But what you said there as well in terms of recognizing what your body can do for you instead of how it looks, you know, going to the beach and be able to do water sports, how it moves on a daily basis. And I know sometimes it can be really hard to get yourself out of the mindset of like how my body looks in certain stuff, but it's like, okay, even the smallest things, like I can actually get out of bed and go for a walk today. Like, how beautiful is that? Or when you go into the gym and like you notice yourself being able to like lift a little bit more than you lifted the week before, you're like, freaking hell, like my body is strong, you know? So actually like really zoning in on like the things that your body is doing for you on daily basis and be like, this is actually pretty cool. Like, what does it matter if like I'm this size or that size or I weigh this much on the scale? Like, it doesn't.
And to be honest, when I was lean, I couldn't lift that much weight. I don't know about you, but I had no strength. Like, I would just literally be a zombie in the gym. I'd just do my workout and be like, oh, God, thank God that's done now.
It also almost just like show up and leave. And it's like, okay, that's done. Like an hour there, you weren't even that focused on like actually pushing yourself until like you start to feel your body and you're like, you're amazed. Like I was so shocked by how much I could like lift once I started to eat. I was like, whoa, I never thought I'd be able to like, I don't know, squat double my body weight or hip thrust double my body weight.
Yeah, no,
it's
and it's
crazy.
Like, you feel that difference in energy when you go to the gym as well. You know, you're like, oh shit, like I can actually, I'm actually strong. But
yeah,
it's like you weren't strong because your body was running on low fuel. It's like a car, right? Your body doesn't run on like, if your car is running on low fuel, it's not gonna work properly, and that's the same with your body.
Yeah, no, but definitely. And now that like you've done so much work on like becoming like body neutral, like and having that body acceptance, do you ever get like bad body image days? Would you say?
I would say I do. I think everyone experiences them a little bit, but the only difference is I don't act upon them. Like I used to always act upon my bad body image days. Like at first when I was trying to heal my relationship with, oh my God, I'm back into square one, like da da da. But I don't wish on having another body now. Like I used to always wish on like on my bad body image. I was like, oh, why can't I just look like this person? But all I just remember is like when I was leaner, I still had those bad body image days, you know. I still had those days, but like I would say I rarely ever get them. And then when I do, it's probably if I've sat too much on social media or looked on my old pictures. Like sometimes I get them when I do that, and then I'm just like, just remember how you felt, Jess. Like you had no period, you felt awful, you had like nothing, like you had no social life, and you hated the way you looked back then. So why would you want to go back to that? Like it's just more about wearing like when I do have bad body image days, like I'm just wearing comfy clothes, and that's it. Like I'm just not looking at myself in the mirror, just go about as it normal, like it happens.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that, like, you know, they are going to happen. Like, it's not like you're completely immune to them. And it's okay because our bodies change. Like, they fluctuate from, like, throughout the month, but also day to day. Like, you look yourself, like, in the mirror in the morning, you're going to look completely different than you do at night. But it's not about completely getting rid of those feelings, but, like, recognizing they come up and not allowing them to like impact your day-to-day life. Like it doesn't impact what you're gonna do that day, what you're gonna eat that day. Like you just get on with yourself. And sometimes like you put on this dress when you're like ovulating and you're like, feel amazing. You put it on like day one of your period and you're like, I feel shit in this, and that's okay. You can just wear something else.
Exactly.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So it's important to do the work on your body image because you can definitely get to a place where your body does not impact your day-to-day life, but also recognizing that you probably need some tools that you need to spiral yourself out of this negative mindset when you find yourself comparing to other people or maybe comparing to old version of yourself, which is a big one, I think, because I don't think like a lot of people speak about comparison now, right? Like obviously it's more negative than positive when you're comparing yourself to others, but the big challenge is comparing yourself to the old version of you and catching yourself. Like, and I have those moments too, you know, scrolling back on photos or videos and being like, oh, I think maybe I looked better than I do now. But then also realizing how you felt in that moment. It's like, but was my life overall better being in that body, or is it now? And it's like, would I actually give up all the experiences that I have gained since that point to go back there? Like, no, like I wouldn't. Like, you know, it allowed me to actually live more fulfilling life, be more present. Like, that was a big thing actually for me on like how present I can actually be when I'm traveling, when I'm spending time with friends, because I'm not like, oh my God, if we're gonna take a bikini picture now, like, am I going to like look a certain way? Or it's like, if we're gonna go out to this restaurant, am I gonna look bloated if I wear this dress? It's like, no, I don't really care. Like,
it's like you go to a restaurant and you're like, sometimes I remember back in the day, I'll be like, I can't wear a tight dress because I'm going to a restaurant and I eat, so it means I'll be bloated after. So what? Now I'll wear it and I'll be like, and? Like, it's normal to be bloated. It's normal,
there's
you know?
food
like,
sitting in your
food sitting in your
stomach.
stomach. It's literally just food sitting in your stomach, but we always made it like such a big thing.
Yeah. And I think it's just sad. Few of my girlfriends were having this conversation how like we were out at a party and then after we went back to just like home, it's like, oh, we can breathe now. As in like you can let your stomach expand, and it's just like crazy. Like, why would we feel the need to be just soaking it in for the whole night? And then you notice yourself like having digestive issues all the time. So
honestly, I don't know if you ever worn them, but I used to wear like waist trainers all the time as I was wearing a tight dress.
Really?
Yeah, and I would get home and I'd have marks on my stomach from wearing the waist trainers. So I was like, I can't let my stomach get bloated.
Yeah. No, I used to just avoid wearing anything that's tight, knowing when I'm going out, or I would just not eat. Like, I'd eat like breakfast, and then if I'd be going out, I'd be just, and I used to get so wasted. I don't know, did you, like when you were like smaller?
When I was smaller, yeah, like 2 shots and I'll be dancing on the tables. It was actually great for my bank account.
Yeah, I mean, you do save a lot of money, but honestly, you'd be like,
you have no body fat. Like, I never know, and I was getting really cold as well. Like, when it was, obviously you're from Ireland as well, so it was really cold. Like, when it was winter months, I would go purple. My friends were like, you look like Olaf, you're going purple. I was like, oh, why am I purple for? And everyone's like, wearing a jean jacket and I'm there with like 3 jackets on
and
like
still
my hands
freezing.
and feet are like freezing.
Yeah, I always had like just my fingers just going all purple and white from it, and I could never understand. But yeah, the nights out stuff, like especially I just look back at some like videos like my friends have from me like when I was like younger and like in a smaller body, and I'd be like, honestly, they'd be just like the shit that you do, because I'd be like, yeah, I'd have 2 drinks and then just couldn't handle it.
Just like, okay, now I'm done.
But no, it's an amazing place to just, it's so liberating getting it, and like you can get to it, and you know, you and I are examples of like what we went through, the struggles, and we're at a place now where we're just like feeling good about ourselves.
And I think there's nothing special about us. Like, you know, like between me and whoever is listening to this, you know, like there's nothing that makes us different. I always thought that there might be something different, but there isn't. Like, if we can do it, also they can do it.
Yeah. No, but that was an amazing conversation. Yes.
Enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, me too. Thank you.